Today on the show, a basketball star takes up the habit, wise business sense under a wimple, and Space Salvi trains our holy hope habit. Our picks of the week and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. Well, hello there. It is time for the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast that tries to cut through the noise of the digital continent and bring you the topics that matter. It's episode number 403. I am Father Chris Decker. Joining me, we've got him. You know him. Kathleen Lee is the executive director of the Women's New Life Clinic. She joins us. Hey, Kathleen.
Hi.
Also, Olivia Gulino, the student of life, our resident Italian food critic, and sometimes she cooks. Hey, Olivia.
Hello.
Sometimes she bakes.
Sometimes I bake. Sorry, I haven't baked
Not
anything
today.
in a while.
That's okay. And in all time, we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, but that's okay. We'll go up to space too, because if there's somebody who's always looking for baked goods, it's Jeff Blackwell. He's the technical director of the CU. He's the commandant of the Jeff Star 1 near Earth orbit satellite. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, it's disco night here at the Jeff Star 1.
Oh, disco night. I
don't like disco music. So.
I didn't realize we had installed a disco ball upstairs there.
Well, we have a Spotify account, so we're wearing it out.
I see. Well, there you go. And if you're watching us on the video feed, or if you're watching us on the radio by some metaphysical strangeness, Ed Ball is in the ball pit. He is doing the video directing for this episode. His shoulders are working. We've hoisted a new monitor into the studio, and there are more to come. So we're doing little upgrades here and there. But yeah, you can see it's right behind Kathleen. Kathleen always gets the beautiful video shots.
I love it.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Well, last week there was like a fish pulsating into my head.
Yeah. We call it, the fish has a name, you know. For those of you, this is some trivia.
Wait.
I knew.
Yeah.
Stanley?
Stanley, that's what I thought.
There you go. Named after a bishop of our diocese.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's your trivia for the Catholic Underground trivia for you. Alrighty. Well, so I don't play sports.
What?
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
I'm one of those priests who doesn't play sports. But I do know that of the men and women that I have known in my life who do play sports, faith very often enters into the picture. In fact, you can't really practice good sportsmanship without having a life of faith. It almost always intermingles, and that's the case for a Villanova women's basketball star. She gave up the sport of basketball.
Basketball.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go to Ohio for you there. She gave up the sport of basketball to become a cloistered nun. Wow. And this sort of thing always works its way into a story for sports networks, because it seems so weird for the world for somebody to make that kind of a commitment. But that's exactly what happened here. So Shelley Pennefather, she was a very, very famous young college-age woman basketball player. And so the ESPN did a little story on her 25th anniversary as a nun, a Poor Clare nun. So friends and family and teammates of Shelley Pennefather gathered this past June for a long-awaited embrace with the former athlete. In fact, they waited 25 years to do that. So there was a little time in between those hugs, because Pennefather stopped playing basketball professionally to become a nun, to live a strictly cloistered life. And she started as a forward for the Wildcats, so the Villanova Wildcats, from 1983 to 1987. During her collegiate career, she was named an All-America. She won the Wade Trophy as the best women's basketball player and was selected 3 times as the Big East Player of the Year. She scored 2,408 points in her career in Villanova, which is still more than any player, woman or man, in the school's history. In fact, she played professionally for 3 years in Japan, because in the 80s, women's basketball was very big in Japan, and it wasn't quite finding its. Some could argue it still hasn't quite found its element in the United States, and so she was really on the cusp, but she made the commitment to live her life of faith. So in 1994, she was on the verge of making $200,000 annually to play basketball. She left everything and joined the monastery of the Poor Clares in Alexandria, Virginia. Now, the Poor Clares, as you may remember, are an order of cloistered nuns who live by strict rules. They don't sleep for more than 4 hours at a time. They're limited to 1 meal per day. They don't wear shoes. They have an intense daily prayer life, and they are restricted from physical contact with others. And so, I mean, to the world, this looks very strange.
Right.
But on her first 25th anniversary at the monastery, Pennefather, who is now Sister Rose Marie, she's able to embrace her loved ones, as she will be able to do every 25th year.
Wow.
So if you think about it, maybe 3 or 4 times in your life, you'll be able to embrace your loved ones. And in the case of her mother, Mary Jane, she probably, as of this year, she will maybe embrace her for the last time.
Right.
You just never know. And that's really the beautiful thing about religious life, is that it is such a radical turning away from the world that you even leave your family behind. Yeah. And if you remember in the scriptures a couple of weeks ago, on Sunday, Jesus talks about the radical nature of preferring nothing, not even the earthly relationships that we have, to him, and living out a religious vocation like the Poor Clares do, like Sister Rosemarie does, is a radical sign to the world that this is possible, and it is a call. It is a legitimate call from Jesus.
I was one time I was talking to my students about I think the Missionaries of Charity.
Yeah,
they and the idea that in their formation,
that's Mother Teresa's order,
right, that in their first year of formation they can't have some kind of contact. I've forgotten what it is.
They have to sever. They have to sever a lot of ties.
Yeah.
Right? So they have to sever ties with their family so that they can commit to their formation.
And I remember that my girls were so angry, they're like, that's not fair. And I was like, wait a minute, okay, wait. Nobody's forcing them into they've chosen this life, and this is the meaning behind it, but it is so counter cultural, and such, to a lay person can be pretty extreme. But the reasoning behind it is so beautiful, just to give yourself completely to the Lord.
And that's the thing about religious life, certainly, is it is extreme, and it does require a very real renunciation. Oftentimes I think we tend to Hollywoodify religious life, but the truth of the matter is, I mean, I'm a priest of a diocese, but what I do every day, just going to the grocery store in my cassock, is a radical renunciation of the world. And it doesn't jive with the way that the world thinks that everything should work. Like, everything should be seek pleasure, avoid pain, always get what you want, never get what you don't, But that's the beautiful thing about Sister Rosemarie. So she grew up in a strong Catholic family. Her home was filled with Catholic statuary, with imagery. Her family said the rosary every night together. Like, are you picking up a theme here, right?
Yeah.
She was one of the top college recruits in the nation. She chose Villanova University because Coach Harry Peretta wears the brown scapular, and he also says the rosary every day. Wow. And Shelley, I should say, Sister Rosemarie's sister, says Coach Peretta is not a fake Catholic. He's legit.
Yes,
and that's what you want to know about your teachers and about your coaches, is they're legitimate, huh? They really put their faith where their life is,
Right.
And her coach pushed her to excel. He told Shelley, now Sister Rosemarie, God gave you this gift, speaking of her ability to play basketball. And he said, quote, you're not really using it to the fullest extent, unquote. And so she gave it her all, and she became, still to this day, the best woman basketball player that the university has seen, and that we've seen in many a year. So Peretta, the coach, brokered a backdoor deal with the Poor Clares. Said he'd bring the sisters some much-needed supplies every summer in return for his own yearly visit with Sister Rosemarie. So he gets to visit with her. Every June, he drives 3 hours down I-95 and delivers ginger ale and Reese's peanut butter cups. I mean, necessities, But also sometimes he'll bring along old teammates to help, right? And because they're helping, so they,
And so carry a can of ginger ale.
Exactly. And so they get to visit through the screen, and they get to hold up their hands through the screen, which is kind of a really beautiful thing. One time, Peretta was visiting Sister Rosemarie when his phone rang, and she asked what that was, because she had never seen a cell phone together before.
Wow.
On June 9th of this year, of 2019, on the Solemnity of Pentecost, 120 friends and family gathered to greet Sister Rosemarie at the Poor Clara Monastery of Mary, Mother of the Church in Alexandria, as she renewed her solemn vows. Shortly after the homily, the 2 wooden doors opened. The whole chapel let out a silent gasp. there she was, 53 years old, standing before them, no screen. I'm starting to cry here.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Without even scanning the crowd, she immediately fixed her eyes where her mom was, and her face lights up, and she goes to her. She renewed her vows. A procession formed in front of her. Mom was first, and then the embrace happens, and it's funny too because the Penna fathers admit they've never been a touchy-feely family, but when mother and daughter embraced, it seemed to last an eternity. Nobody wanted to let go.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane told her, "Let's hear it, me crying again." She says, "I'll be here at 103 if you can hang in there."
Oh.
Yeah. And Sister Rosemary says, "I'll try." So if you want to cry along with me, my goodness, it's more than I can handle. If you want to cry along with me, you can watch on ESPN.com the video, A Long Embrace. It's a 7-minute video. It's really, really beautiful, and it tells a very compelling story, especially in the world in which we live today, because these radical signs from people that live down the street, from people that played sports at your high school gym, were in college with you, these are the radical signs that remind us that we're made for something more. We're not just made to draw a paycheck. We're not just made to kind of do things without reason. We're not made to suffer for no reason, but we can choose these things. And a beautiful, beautiful life can come about, and we can inspire the lives of others, And that's exactly what we see here. So this always excites me whenever I see these, It might be the first time on Catholic Underground that I've cried on the air. But it was just a little eye moistener. That's all it was.
Beautiful. But
those sorts of things are beautiful. I mean, I cry at the drop of a hat now when I see someone living their vocation fully and truly. I mean, whenever I see married couples, in public places, praying or embracing or with their children, that makes me cry too. I mean, that's the thing. And I suppose it's kind of fatherly, right? Whenever you see your spiritual children or your spiritual brothers and sisters really kind of breaking through that crud of the world to see what really matters, the things of heaven. Those are the things that just make me tear up.
And this is incredible because of all the support. Like a lot of times people who enter religious life or they enter the seminary, they're met with some resistance, even from family that's sometimes. True. But here's her old, I love this, that her old coach is like, "Hey, I'm gonna bring y'all some stuff so I can see,
That's right. I'll make a deal with the poor Claires.
Check. Yeah.
I'll keep you in Reese's peanut butter cups if you let me say hello. Yeah.
Right. And then her mom saying, "I'll be here.
Yep.
If you'll hang around, I'll be here at 103 if you hang around."
Yeah.
So
and how beautiful that is, because that's, I can't imagine because I don't have children, but I can imagine it's very difficult to be a mother, and to be kind of torn between this. You want this person to, your child to embrace a religious life, to embrace life with God, but at the same time, just the natural heartache.
It's not easy, and I even see it in a parish setting. Whenever I'm asking a boy to consider being an altar server, I've actually had parents while I'm standing there next to them saying, "Well, you don't have to do that if you don't want to." Before they can make the choice, there's this intervention because the parent doesn't want to consider that, or maybe they are considering that there might be something this could lead to.
Right.
And it could necessarily mean a separation from their family. There's a young lady who was considering entering a convent, and was just kind of talking about all the different relationships that she doesn't want to leave behind, and she's not sure if it was going to be worth it. I said, "Well, look, I can only speak for myself, but whenever you say yes to a religious vocation, a lot of people fall away. But that's the radical nature of the call.
Right.
We certainly don't know if Sister Rosemary plays basketball anymore. She may have had to hang up her hoop as well. But that's the radical nature of it, and all of us are called to living the gospel radically in some way.
Right. Well, the Lord's not going to leave you in that heartache and desolation.
No, and
He'll fill that
exactly.
space and those voids.
And that's the thing that's countercultural for us, is that we think that we have to provide the grace. I have to provide the means by which I'm going to succeed or fail. And the truth of the matter is the Lord is the one who wishes to provide the sustenance necessary, and that's what graces are. And one of the things that we certainly believe about, certainly our vocations in life, is that God will never cease to supply the graces that are necessary for the life that you have chosen. If you have discerned as best as you can, then the Lord will allow you the graces necessary to be the best wife, the best father, the best husband, the best priest, the best religious sister, the best nun, the best religious brother that you can be. Because whenever we make a choice for God, God makes good on the choice that we make, right?
Yeah.
He is the one who supplies even what we lack. And that's hard to believe, but it is in fact the truth. You know something else that's the truth? It's us. We are the Catholic Underground. I guess I should amend that we are not the truth, but we simply rebroadcast it in as much as that it is true that we are the Catholic Underground. We are. You've been listening to us. We're online at CatholicUnderground.tv. I'm Father Chris, joined by Kathleen Lee, by Olivia Gulino, by Jeff Blackwell, and Ed Ball. Our picks of the week are coming up. But first, there's another habited individual who has gone to the Lord, but while she was with us, was quite a revolutionary.
She was a sassy lady, and I love her. I love watching videos of Mother Angelica. If you know, if you're familiar with EWTN, Mother Angelica was the driving force behind that
it's
network.
It's the Catholic global Catholic broadcasting network now. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think it was this past year, the March for Life. We stopped in Hanceville and visited, and I got to visit her not her grave, her tomb. Her tomb, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But she was definitely a revolutionary and also a trailblazer, because I mean the things that this woman did as a nun, right? In the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did she die?
In the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, for a long time, this woman just like led the church.
The thing about it, like when she became a religious sister, when she became a nun, she has up to the point of her death is a cloistered nun.
Yeah.
So that means behind the screen, away from the world,
right?
And yet was able to.
Yeah, she had her own show.
And yet she had a show.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the time, she was working in the church at a time when the church in America was definitely beginning to flounder and lose part of its identity. She brought the faith and orthodoxy to millions through her TV network, which at the time was in and of itself its own,
it wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing. She said, well, Lord, if you want it, we'll do it. And so her business tactics, people still puzzle over them. You know, people would come to EWTN to try to figure out how are you doing this? And they still don't make sense today.
Yeah, no, they don't. It was like, how did you do that? How did you create this place, this network? But we think that if she were still alive today, there would be some advice that she might share. And it would be this. Number one, do it even if it seems ridiculous.
That's right.
Right? She's well known for this quote, unless you are willing to do the ridiculous, God will not do the miraculous. When you have God, you don't have to know everything about it. You just do it. Right? And she often appeared to be doing the ridiculous. I'm sure people every day in her life are like,
yeah. What?
Yeah. Okay. What are we doing?
How's that going to work?
Right. As a cloistered sister, she revolutionized the Christian broadcasting industry, and again started her own TV program. She seemed like a walking contradiction, right? And so whether she was ordering a giant satellite on faith and no credit,
that's true,
standing up to wishy-washy clergy, or publicly clashing with dissident bishops and putting their television broadcasting service out of business, she went where God led, even when it seemed crazy. And we're so glad that she did, right? She did it even if it sounded ridiculous. Number two, act and then expect God to act.
This is a toughie.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what you do,
right,
to step out there, you know, and just to say, okay, Lord. In fact, I remember her saying that faith is 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot in the air, and a queasy feeling in the stomach.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, Raymond Arroyo, who wrote the biography on Mother Angelica, tells a story about her faith and determination to act and then wait for God to act. You know, a lot of times we're like, all right, Lord, this is what I need, do it, and then I can move on. Yeah. But she's saying the opposite. You act and then you wait for God to act. So it involves a giant satellite being ordered and delivered to Mother Angelica, who only had $200 in the bank. So it was delivered to her place in the middle of nowhere, Alabama.
Quite literally.
And all this because she firmly believed God wanted EWTN to happen. So she acted. The satellite, which cost all in all $1.5 million, was delivered. So the story goes like this. She has $200 in the bank. She has to put down a $600,000 delivery deposit on delivery, right? And so the truck shows up with the
with all the stuff,
with all the stuff,
satellite dish.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, bro," right? And so she's like, "Hold on, let me go pray." And so, as any good spouse does, she goes and she talks to her spouse, the Lord, and is like, "Look, you wanted this, and I don't have $600,000, and what are we gonna do?" And she waited for God to act, and she ended up getting out the chapel and having to go back, and she was going to go back and tell the delivery guy, "I can't accept it." Yeah. Where at the time, one of her sisters came running over and was like, "Mother Angelica, like, you got to get on the phone right now. This guy won't get off the phone." Some guy in the Bahamas
on his boat,
right? Had read one of her books, one of her publishings, and it had changed his life. And he's like, "I want to support your book ministry with $600,000. What? And she's like, "How soon can you get it to me?" Right?
That's right. Yeah.
The delivery dude is waiting right now, right? And so the idea that she acted because she felt a call from God, and then she waited and expected God to respond. Number 3, defy your doubts. Right, before EWTN was even a thing, Mother Angelica had the idea to broadcast a Catholic TV show. A cross between Masterpiece Theater, which I do enjoy, and a Bible study, complete with a fake fireplace, right? Faux leather chair. It
was pretty rough in the early days.
Yeah,
I've seen that video.
But she used her wit and her charm and her keen insight to evangelize. If you've ever seen any of her recordings, she does not pull punches.
No.
She's very, very quick and smart. But it all started with one poorly lit amateur videotape that was filmed on a set and sent to different broadcast companies. We might know a little bit about what that journey looks like for us.
That's right.
We were talking the other week about how it's so nice not to have to put up our blue tarp.
Yeah, that's right.
That we had to put up and bring down every show.
Although that blue tarp is finding new life in our New Orleans studio for some of our other programming. It's nice.
So
just pass it down.
Yeah, and it was eventually picked up by CBN, who was so impressed they asked for 60 episodes in 2 months.
That's a lot of recording.
Right? And she was like, 60 episodes? What? Right? And as she spoke, images of falling props, hasty exits, and inadvertently removed microphones flickered in her memory.
However,
all these things that had gone wrong, right? But however she responded, if that's what you need, that's what we'll do.
Yep.
Defying her doubts. And she did, because then she acted and waited for God to act. Number 4, don't put a lid on God. Mother Angelica was known to say, quote, "Never put a lid on God. You can give God a thimble and ask for a quart. It won't work. Your plans, your projects, your dreams have to always be bigger than you, so God has room to operate. I want you to get good ideas, crazy ideas, extravagant ideas. Nothing is too much for the Lord to do. Accent on the Lord." Right? Everything she accomplished, she did for God. It wasn't for her own self, but for the Lord, right? She didn't box him in. Instead, she dreamed big, right? She dreamed big with the Lord, and then she let him show off, right? She acted, and then he acted. She thought it was ridiculous. She did it anyway. She had doubts in herself, but not in the Lord, right?
Yeah, what isn't there like a saint or something who says that you pay God a great compliment by asking great things of him?
Right.
Something like that. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I kind of think about it sometimes, like when I go to the doctor, I'm like, well, I have, this one little pain. I went to the doctor last time I went and I was like, look, I got a whole list. This is what's going on. We got to fix all this. That's the same thing with God. We go to God and we're like, look, I need this little favor, right? And he's like, what do you dream about? Let me dream with you, right? Don't take yourself too seriously. Hello, right? One of the most enduring qualities about Mother Angelica was her ability to not take herself too seriously. Right? She was the first to admit that she didn't know what she couldn't do, right? And what her limitations were, but she never let it stop her, which is, I think, a beautiful gift. If you don't know what you can't do, well, then you just do it.
Yeah.
Right?
You really do have to have a sense of humor, too,
right.
to allow the Lord to work, because life is too serious to be taken seriously, as they say. And so you really do have to kind of laugh at some of the things, some of the predicaments that you get into, right? What was it, Saint Teresa of Avila, who said, "Lord, if this is how you treat your friends, no wonder you have so few of them."
Right.
You know, and yet that's kind of said tongue in cheek, like, "Lord, I'm going to keep moving, but here it is."
Yep. Yeah. So she didn't take herself too seriously, always took God seriously. And she even was known to poke fun at herself and even at her poor health, which was a cross that she bore for most of her life. In fact, in the later years, she wore an eye patch and was referred to as the pirate nun by many, many people, which I think is awesome. And she just kind of
wore it like a badge on her sleeve.
Here it is, right? And number 6, above all else, be faithful, not afraid. Mm-hmm. Right, according to Mother Angelica, quote, faith is 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot in the air, and a queasy feeling in the stomach.
Oh, did I jump ahead too far?
I mean, that's such a great quote though, because it is like, oftentimes we want to feel so secure in our faith. We want to know all the answers to our questions, and she's saying this is an adventure. Yeah. How many times are you about to jump off a cliff, metaphorically or in real life? I don't know, and you're about to do something that is going to scare the living daylights out of you. But there's that feeling in your stomach of like, this is going to be really bad or real good, right? Mm-hmm. And she aired on the side of this is going to be real good. The most important thing to her was not how big her television reach was, which it was, not how many programs EWTN was airing, is still airing, right? And not how much money the station was able to bring in to keep operating. To her, she says, the only thing that is important is, am I loving God and growing holy every day?
Yep.
Beautiful.
That's exactly right. Yep. And so the Lord can do great things with a small yes, and that's certainly what we ask. And in all of our work of evangelization, we ask Mother Mary Angelica of the Annunciation, who went to the Lord on March 27th, 2016, to pray for us, to pray for all those involved in Catholic media. And we know that she does and that she is, absolutely, because that's what the saints are. They're kind of like our rallying cry from heaven, going to the Lord, and to remind us that we ought not to be afraid. All we have to do is be faithful, and the Lord will take over the rest. So make sure you stay right where you are, because there's more coming up on the other side of the break. We're Catholic Underground. Stay right there. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Watching and listening to the Catholic Underground, and it is I, Father Chris, your unholy host. At least I'm trying to be holy. Only my confessor knows for sure. Also, Kathleen Lee joins us, Olivia Gulino, Jeff Blackwell, and Ed Ball. Yeah, our picks of the week are coming up, but we thought that we would immerse ourselves in a topic, a virtue, a document that we like to return to periodically, because if there's one virtue that seems to be perhaps underexplained and underlived, it's the virtue of hope, right? And yet Pope Benedict XVI wrote that very curious document about hope, and it was perhaps unexpected, right? Because Deus Caritas Est, right, was his first encyclical, and Spe Salvi came after that, right? Mm-hmm. And Spe Salvi, it talks about the Christian virtue of hope, was really unexpected. And yet is a beautiful document. So we thought we'd kind of break it down a little bit more for you, because we talked about hope before, but it's always good to come back to, because hope is that one thing that we can hang on, especially when everything else seems to be kind of crumbling around us.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about hope, I want to say a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. If you're listening to the podcast, simultaneously, or if you're a regular watcher / listener, so that you might be thinking, wait, I'm having deja vu. Olivia has already talked about this. She's talked about it many times. However, she's going to talk about it again because this is my favorite encyclical, along with Deus Caritas Est. But like Father Chris was saying, it really is a curious kind of encyclical. So it was issued 12 years ago. It's on the theological virtue of hope. These are the things we know. But it's different because most major papal documents are projects that involve a lot of preparation, and actually many collaborators. We get an encyclical, it's signed by a pope, and they certainly guide it, direct it, offer their own input. But remember that not all popes are theologians, right? It's a very curious thing that John Paul II was a philosopher, and Pope Benedict is very much a theologian, right? So, but as far as being the pope, it's not required that you be a theologian. So,
but it helps.
It helps, right? As we'll see, it helps. Most papal encyclicals involve a lot of collaboration, right? They have many drafters, what they're called. So think about Veritatis Splendor, if you've ever read that. I think it was 1994 is when that one came out. That was John Paul II on the moral life. But that took 7 years of preparation, right? And it's a pretty hefty as far as encyclicals go. It's a nice size.
I think all of John Paul II's writings are hefty.
Yes, he doesn't say anything in one sentence that he couldn't say in 8.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. So, that took 7 years. And then you have other mammoth works of Pope Francis that you've maybe, heard of or read recently, like Evangelii Gaudium, Amoris Laetitia, right? These are the longest papal documents in history, and they're so long that they're, pretty evidently the work of several drafters, right? Yeah. Or even Lumen Fide that came out right after Pope Francis was, elected Pope. It kind of shows us something that it came out so quickly after he became the Pope, showed us that, Benedict's drafters had already started working on this document, right? But Spe Salvi is different than all of these, right? So the Vatican drafters were actually at work on the social encyclical Caritas in Veritate, which came out in 2009. So Benedict issued 3 encyclicals. Number 1, Deus Caritas Est, God is Love, in 2005, I want to say. And then
that sounds about right.
Yeah, I want to say in 2005. And then Spe Salvi 2007 and Caritas in Veritate in 2009. And like I said, it's a social encyclical. It's continuing a long line of the social encyclicals, starting with Rerum Novarum in the 1800s. And Benedict was devoting his spare time at that time, which, whatever spare time a pope has, but he was writing his 3-volume Life of Christ, which you might have heard of, might own.
Which is fantastic.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good. But the first of those books appeared in May 2007, so it's happening all around this time. But then he came back from his kind of summer vacation at Castel Gandolfo, and apparently this is how Pope Benedict parties in the summer, because he surprised everyone with a complete, polished, magisterial meditation on hope, and that's what Spe Salvi is. And then it was confirmed by the second volume of Jesus of Nazareth being that 3-volume series that he authored. It was then really confirmed by that, and that was published in 2011. It kind of became clear to the world that Pope Benedict Joseph Ratzinger was really the most learned man alive. And I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. I personally think that Pope Benedict will probably be a doctor of the church one day, just because, if nothing else, he's one of the greatest Pope theologians and just theologians the church has ever had.
Yeah. Give it 500 years and I think you're right.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That's okay. We think in centuries, right? We're the church.
It's okay. His contributions still matter, even if they haven't been recognized as such, or won't be until, he's declared a doctor of the church, whatever. Okay, so let's talk about Spe Salvi. So Spe Salvi really is the work of a brilliant mind. We've established that. He's absolutely 100% thoroughly brilliant. But he's steeped in the Christian tradition, and he's got this pastoral heart, right? Benedict is, sometimes misunderstood, but he's got the heart of a father. And he knows the aspirations, the anxieties in his flock, right? In his children. And he really has this simple piety that kind of animates his papacy, his priesthood, that he learns from the faithful, right? He learns that simple piety from the faithful. So if you read Spe Salvi, you'll see that he kind of gives you the gamut of its philosophy, its theology. He doesn't pull any punches, right? It's a legitimate meditation on hope, and he'll take you way down into the depths. But it's really what I found transformative, and then this article that we're referring to from Catholic Herald UK refers to the same thing. He uses a model of hope, or he presents as a model of hope, Saint Josephine Bakhita, which maybe she doesn't get a whole lot of airtime nowadays. At least like I had never really heard of her until Benedict mentioned her. I went and looked her up. But she was a Sudanese slave turned Canossian sister, religious sister. And it was John Paul II who canonized her during one of his Jubilee years. And so Benedict presents her as a model of hope, and her story is kind of sad on the surface, right? She's a slave. She gets passed around from master to master. And she finally is purchased by a master who is more benevolent, who's kinder to her than others. And it's through I think if I'm remembering right, his he was Christian. Him and his family were Christians, and that kind of introduced her to Saint Josephine Bakhita to Christianity, and ultimately like who is the Lord, right? But a loving Father, and she had never had that in her life, right? But this is what Benedict writes. He says, "Now she had hope. No longer simply the modest hope of finding masters who would be less cruel, but the great hope. Quote, I am definitively loved, and whatever happens to me, I am awaited by this love, and so my life is good. Through the knowledge of this hope, she was redeemed, no longer a slave, but a free child of God." Right? Yeah. So I love that. Like, I mean, I don't know. I read that a lot. I have it on one of my quote boards I had it in my office, and I still have it near me today. But I love that. I'm definitively loved, and whatever happens to me, I'm awaited by this love, and so my life is good. Right? Like, that's hope that animates your life. If you can, in the midst of really no perceivable joy and from start to finish in your life, you can still say, and so my life is good. Yeah. Right? Because you know that you are awaited by love, that your life comes from love and is intended for love. Yeah,
I can only, I try to place myself there as a man who is striving after the heart of God. And oftentimes at the end of the day, that's what I have to say. Well, my life is good because I have being and I know where I'm going, and that's not always easy to hang your hat on, especially if you're in a place of suffering.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing that I think Benedict does really well, is that he helps us to see beyond, like, especially when it comes to hope. Like, I think it might be hard for us to conceptualize, like, well, okay, so I hope for something outside the present moment. We talked about this a few weeks ago too, that, I hope for something outside the present moment, but hope is not just something that gets us to look up, but it gives us direction, right? It's not just it's not like an escape mechanism. It's a way to look up even in the midst of tragedy and to say, okay, I'm going to be here, but I know where I'm going.
Right.
And so Spe Salvi does a really beautiful job of telling us how, love, or really just showing us how love can free us from maybe like the prison of history as just like one thing after another, right? Mm-hmm. That's sometimes how we perceive our lives, right? Maybe something good happens and then something bad happens, and then maybe another bad thing happens, and then we just wait for the next good thing, and it's just moment by moment by moment. And even if you look at history, maybe if you've ever studied history, you kind of see that pattern of like, well, things are good for a time, and then they're really bad for a time, and then they're really good and really bad. And it just seems like maybe that's this endless cycle that just, how do we escape? How do we get rid of this? How do we make things better? But I love what Benedict says about this. He says that to imagine ourselves outside the temporality that imprisons us, right? The temporality that imprisons us.
The time, basically.
Yeah. And in some way to sense that eternity is not an unending succession of days in the calendar, right? Sometimes we have that perception of heaven as just like Earth, but things are happy and we all, we have all we can eat.
It's one 24-hour period after another.
Exactly, yeah.
But we want for nothing. Yeah. But that's not an accurate portrayal of heaven.
Right.
And so if we look at heaven in the same way that we look with the eyes of earth, in a temporal way, in a time-oriented way, then we don't always, I don't think we get an accurate view of why we ought to hope.
No, exactly. And I love that he says, so it's not this unending succession of days in the calendar, but something more like the supreme moment of satisfaction. Supreme moment of satisfaction in which totality embraces us and we embrace totality, right? Because who is that totality? It's God. God is all in all. God is all being. God is, right? So totality embraces us and we embrace totality.
And I suppose we can kind of replicate, but perhaps synthesize just a brief moment of that. If you think about one of the most satisfying moments that you've experienced in the past just week, maybe it is that sip of coffee in the morning, that first little slurp, huh? Maybe it's a well-made pina colada, maybe something like that. But at any rate, that little infinitesimal moment of satisfaction, imagine that being eternity, right? Supreme satisfaction, which of course is God. That's, I would want, in the same way that I can hope for that first sip of coffee tomorrow morning and the morning after that. That's a source of hope for me, that I can get to the point where I am completely and fully satisfied, and that happens outside of time, ultimately.
Yeah, and it's that satisfaction. I think, pointing out those moments in our lives where we can find satisfaction is really key, because then we're forced to look at why am I satisfied in this moment, right? And usually it's because there's some kind of enjoyment, there's some kind of pleasure, there's some kind of fulfillment, right? Or there's just a need is being met, maybe that we didn't even know that we had. And so when we think about our ultimate satisfaction, right, totality embraces us, right? Totality of everything, but especially totality of desire, totality of fulfillment embraces us. So you want for nothing. But he says that, that would be like plunging into the ocean of infinite love, a moment in which time, the before and after, no longer exists, right? Plunging into the ocean of infinite love. I love that. It reminds me so much of Romans 5. So you probably heard hope does not disappoint, but I'm going to back it up a little bit to verse 3, and said, verse 2. So the end of verse 2 says, we boast in our hope of sharing the glory of God. But it says, and not only that, but we also boast in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit that has been given to us, right? If hope does not disappoint, number one, it's because we found a way to rejoice in our sufferings, usually through grace, right? Allowing the Lord to help us do that. But then also because what has that happened? God's love pours into our hearts, right? It doesn't just trickle. He doesn't just throw some grace in our direction, right? He pours into us. And it does that through the Holy Spirit that has been given to us, right? The words of gift, right? And so if hope does not disappoint, is because it's God's love that we're being immersed in, right? I was praying a novena to the precious blood recently, and it talks about at one point, the graces that we need, that we're praying for, flowing to us on a wave of the Lord's blood flowing from the cross.
Oh, wow. And
that image is just kind of stuck in my brain. But that's what I imagine, right? That's the love of God being poured out for us through the Holy Spirit. And that's truly where our hope is to be found, right? The infinite love of God, right? And so
I was thinking about that this week. I went to visit some classmates, and we drove down to Florida for a few days.
Oh, nice.
And to see kind of the never-ending succession of waves, whether it's high or low tide, that there is always water coming to the shore, and it's always a crash on the beach. It's very rarely something that doesn't move sand, right? And the Lord's grace is always willing to be an overflow, a crash into us, right? That actually brings calm and brings peace, and doesn't bring the thing that a wave usually brings, right?
Yeah.
A wave usually brings destruction as it creates this chaos, but when the Lord pours His grace into us, we actually are calmed. We are emboldened. We are courageous.
Yeah. Well, and I think it ties in with what Kathleen was saying earlier about not putting a lid on God, right? Yeah. Because the temptation can be to just pray for a trickle, right? Pray for just these tiny things. I'll handle the rest, but here's the things that you can handle, right? But God doesn't want that, right? God wants an ocean of His infinite love. That's what He wants us to be immersed in, an ocean, right? And we can't plumb the depths of the ocean. We can't swim the depth, the breadth of the ocean, right? And so imagine the immensity of God's love if the ocean is the metaphor that He picks, right? And all for you. Right, all of that for you. So if nothing else, this should give us the conviction of hope. Yeah. Right.
And you as an individual, that's the thing. Is the Lord, Jesus makes it very clear that God the Father goes after you. He will forsake the 99 to go after you, and He wants to share faith and hope and love with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so the creativity of Space Olivia, we've talked a lot about love. It's not just limited to his treatment of love, but also justice, which is an interesting perspective when we talk about hope, right? A lot of times when you think about hope, you think about love and mercy, but he brings in justice. And I think it ties in really well to his encyclical, his social encyclical, Caritas in Veritate, which is like love and truth, right? But he says that, our hope for something more, something beyond this world, and again, across the threshold of death, it's not only a desire for love beyond limits, like we've been talking about, but also a desire for a limit to evil, right? A desire for justice.
And that's justice, a desire for a limit to evil.
Yeah. And I mean, I think John Paul II talked about divine mercy being like the limit on Satan's reach in this world, especially when you think about like the timing of St. Faustina's message of divine mercy, like in the early to mid 1900s, right? World wars are happening, right? Communism is happening, mass oppression and genocide, right? But that's when the message of divine mercy is being reiterated, being really like put fleshed on.
That these will end.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's what mercy does, right? And that's what hope does. It puts a limit on evil. And so Pope Benedict says that our hope demands the triumph of justice, which plainly does not prevail in this world, right? We see that all the time. And he says that I'm convinced that the question of justice constitutes the essential argument, or in any case, the strongest argument in favor of faith in eternal life, right? The idea that like, okay, so there's not justice in this world, right? But there's still got to be justice, right? We know that. We have faith that, the limit to evil will be imposed, right? And also that, if our actions have consequences and we're not seeing them in this life, all right, well, they're coming, right? Because 1 + 2 doesn't equal nothing. I mean, we know that it has to go somewhere. And so he says that the purely individual need for a fulfillment that's denied to us in this life, like the need for justice in some way, for an everlasting love that we await, he says is certainly an important motive for believing that man was made for an eternity, right? He's finding a way into eternity just through this need for justice. But again, only in connection with the impossibility that the injustice of history is the final word, right? Because if that was the final word, well, that's just a catalyst into hopelessness, right? We look around at the world, we see a lot of injustice and a lot of justice not being won, or not maybe even being reversed in certain instances, and we know that that's not the end. That's not the final word.
That's right, and nor is revenge the end.
Exactly.
That the injustice of getting what I want rather than what is due.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have this promise of infinite love, of eternal love. And he says that the strongest argument for eternal life is not that we might love forever, but that in eternity justice might be wrought for those who were denied it here. Right. So that's how he slides his way into this discussion of like heaven, purgatory, and hell. And it's a really, he spends a paragraph on each, but I really recommend going to read that if you've ever had questions about those things and how it fits with this dynamic of love and mercy and justice, right? These principles that we are kind of familiar with, but we don't understand how they're applied to those eternal truths. So basically what he says is that God is justice. God creates justice. And that is our consolation and our hope, right? Because it's in his justice that there's also what? Grace, right?
You heard that teacher phrase? There's in that justice that there's also what?
It's okay. It's didactic. That's good.
I love it.
Thanks, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
But he says that we know by turning our gaze to what? The crucified and risen Christ. I'm doing it again. That these things, justice and grace, they're seen in their correct inner relationship.
Right, because in the person Jesus Christ, these two components come together, justice and grace.
Exactly. And we know that to be true. Look at the cross. Justice is being served. Right? But there's also grace. Grace doesn't cancel out justice. Just because Jesus is made flesh doesn't mean that, death runs away and is not a consequence anymore. No, like Christ takes that burden onto himself. So justice is very much the order of the day, but it's grace ultimately that exists, coincides with it, exists side by side with justice. And both of those things together should give us hope, right? The cross should give us hope, right? Even in the midst of suffering, and even in the midst of just maybe we look around, we see that injustice in the world. We should be able to look at the cross and see not only mercy and not only love, but we should see grace and we should see justice. And we should have hope that, all right, maybe it's not going to happen in this life, I got to be cool with that. I got to find a way to endure that, and that'll produce character, and that will produce hope, right? I have to find a way through that. But at least I know that the promise of justice exists, right? And grace is real.
And that's why we as Catholics don't shy away from the crucifix.
No.
Right? The body of Jesus is on the cross, not because he is dying, but because he will be triumphant.
Exactly.
You know? And in his death is the grace, the justice, and the mercy coming together. Because in his resurrection, all the things that are promised are fulfilled. Yeah. And that's why we hope in the cross. Christ is our only hope. And not just Christ living, but Christ died and Christ risen. Right?
Yeah.
And that's a great mystery. That's what we proclaim whenever we come to Mass. The great mystery of faith is that we proclaim Christ died and risen, because it is from that glory is coming for all of us, right? That we are able to receive that which we hope for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Well, I tell you, we could go on and on and on about hope, but if we did that, we wouldn't have time for that part of the program that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week.
Alrighty, for our first CU Pick of the Week, how about we go to Kathleen?
Yay!
Because Father Chris hates Kevin.
No, I don't. I don't hate Kevin.
Poor Kevin. All right, my pick of the week this week is 40 Days for Life. This is a campaign that's going on now around the world.
Yeah.
40 days of prayer and fasting for an end to abortion. And so this happens, there are many sites, most of them are outside of an abortion clinic. We'll have one here in Baton Rouge, which we're super excited about. But a few weeks ago, I had lunch with Sean Carney, who, if you've watched the movie Unplanned, he was the sidewalk advocate who worked with Abby Johnson and her conversion. And
he was just simply there.
And he
like
was
whenever you're
there.
ready,
Right.
we're ready for you. Yeah.
He didn't push. He didn't yell.
He prayed.
He had a peaceful, prayerful presence. And so whether there's a campaign going on around you or maybe you can't make it out, or please know that it starts on the 25th, September 25th. And maybe in your own schedule, plan some time for, because I see it. I see it. Our abortion clinic here in Baton Rouge, they're down to 1 day out of 3 days they were performing abortions.
Oh, wow.
Because they're down to one doctor. It's working. Like prayer works. And so.
And fasting works.
Yes. Prayer and fasting.
Because the great evil of abortion is one of those, I'm pretty sure, can only be driven out by fasting,
right.
by truly going to the Lord and doing without, so that the Lord can work on the hearts of those who are hardened, right?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So there it is.
That's a good pick of the week. Yeah. Olivia.
Yeah.
I remembered your name.
Thank you. Well, it's the least you can do. I've only known you for like 15 years.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fine.
all. Yeah.
But no, my pick of the week is something called the Bible Project. So I am a theology nerd. We've established that. But I also want to find kind of succinct, helpful ways to teach people just about basic truths of the Bible, but also to help kind of put things in context, especially weird things like the terms and things that that the Bible uses that we're not familiar with. It's just a completely different way of thinking, right? So the Bible Project is an animation studio that they produce these short, fully animated videos about the biblical stories. They have a series on the Torah. They have one on the wisdom literature. Different. They have I watched a couple in the series on the biblical words, and that was really cool
neat.
because they take just different words from the Shema was one that they were working through. The Shema is hear, O Lord. Hear, O Israel. Your Lord is one. Your Lord is God. It's something that Jewish people say every day. It's used a lot in the scriptures. So they break it open and they take the different words in Hebrew and kind of explain what they mean. So the pair that. The team that runs this project, they are Christian. They're not explicitly Catholic, but they are Christian. One of them is, someone who's studied the Bible, and the other one is an animator. And together they make these really cool videos. So check them out.
They have kind of a 50s flair. I like it.
Yeah. It's a little bit old school. And granted, I don't know much about animation, but I do appreciate these.
They have a podcast as well, if you want to listen.
Yes, they do.
Very neat. All right, let's go over to the satellite there. And Jeff, your pick of the week.
I got a show and tell for you here.
Oh, well.
In fact, it's an app for your phone. It's called the Roku.
Roku.
Roku. Thank
Yeah.
you. Roku. There are two different versions made by two different companies.
Yeah.
But this is so cool. It saves you so much time. You can in fact, play tricks on the wife. I'm in the bedroom and I sign into the TV and the Roku in the living room and start changing channels on her. So
I'll bet she loves that.
no, okay, that's why I'm here on Sunday nights.
That's right. Yeah.
But it is. It's and what I find myself pointing the phone at the TV and it's like it doesn't
Yeah,
work
you don't
that
need
way.
to
It's
do
through
that.
the Wi-Fi. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. So check it out. There's a link in the show notes for this week. And it's,
Very cool.
I think for $2 you can get the ads removed. And
Okay.
and-
Now, I don't want to rain on your parade, but Roku makes an app as well, and it's I mean it has a lot of those same features.
Yes.
But if you don't want the price point of $2, then I'd recommend the Roku app because I'll tell you it's a little wonky if you have more than one Roku because sometimes it has trouble searching for them. Mm-hmm. But
well, this one and it is family shareable. I know for up to 6 different accounts.
Oh, that's nice.
So I guess you could get locked out sometimes.
it does happen, especially if you're always playing tricks on the wife.
So and the Roku app itself is free, I presume.
It is free. Yep. So like I say, choose your poison for Roku apps, I suppose. My pick of the week actually is an app as well. If you're familiar with Focus and the Focus Missionaries, there is an app for that. They have Bible studies as well as various kind of Catholic apologetics things, resources on how to do that. If you want to learn how to be an evangelist, how to kind of practice discipleship, then it's all there. Videos, full-length talks from the Focus conferences. It's the Focus Equip app, and we will put that in the show notes for you. Jeff, we are always grateful for our benefactors, for those who pray for us, and well, you know what, Jeff? I'm grateful for you.
Oh, well, don't let up. We need your prayers for sure. And this week, the Catholic Underground is possible because of people just like you. Join the growing number of undergrounders at CatholicUnderground.com/donate. An important way to support us is to like us, heart us, star us, and share us on your social media platform of choice. And if you really like the podcast now, just drive on by iTunes and leave us a review and click on them stars, baby.
I tell you what, it's kind of like going to a drive-in theater, right? You just drive on by, and then, do you know what drive-in theater is?
Yes, I've been
Yes.
to
Oh,
one.
good. Oh, phew. All right. Okay, good.
Yeah, it used to
We're
have that special
sophisticated.
$1 for a carload of people. So, but
Yeah. You
Them's
just
were the days.
Those were the
you
days.
put the speaker on the car. Now you can do it with Bluetooth. Alrighty. Our panelists have been Kathleen Lee, the benefactress, the Bluetooth ninja. She's at KLee626 on Instagram. Thank you, Kathleen.
Anytime.
Yes, Olivia Gulino is at the.real.omg on all of the social media. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
I got that right this time,
You
by
just
the
said
way.
it's very seamless.
Our tech director is Jeff Blackwell at Jeff Blackwellus on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you, Jeff.
Always a privilege, Father.
Our research assistant, the leader of the crew in the lab, is Jim Hayes. Our video and graphics director is Ed Ball. And thou knowest me, I am here before you. I'm Father Chris. You can follow me on Instagram at Digital Catholic and on Twitter at Digital Catholic. We hope that we have helped you cut through the noise and find that still small voice. We are the Catholic Underground. We're faith gone digital, and we'll see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.